Yes, yeah, yeah. I don't think I can go back in here and set you back up now. I'm gonna have to call you back.
Okay.
All right.
This is Harry. Can you hear?
and then it says join event now, rejoin. Is the event still going or what?
It should be if you've got it going on in the background. You can click rejoin. But if you click rejoin and it's going on in the background of your computer, then it'll just you've got another window open.
Yeah, that's what it's telling me.
Yeah, so you're still in the event.
I am.
Yep.
So do I close the one that's trying to open up or what?
I don't think you closed anything.
You don't think I should? There's one that's trying to join.
Well, is it already open on another window of your computer?
Yes, I'm sharing something. Yeah.
Yeah, so keep that one. So I wouldn't try to close that again.
But both of them have the same option.
Also doing what?
Both of them have the same information in there saying I'm trying to rejoin. It's the same. I'm not sure what's going on.
I wouldn't try to rejoin anything. Stay on the one that you've already opened. Don't try to open it again.
Okay, hold on a second, please. Larry, you should have another invite.
Another invite from where? I mean,
Check your email.
okay. I got an invite here.
Click on that. Try to join it.
that are here now. If Larry can unmute, he's good. I think we're in now.
Hey, Chuck, am I unmuted? Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Take it
let's
away.
get started, guys.
Take it away. Thank you.
My apologies for the technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. But we're going to get started and move forward. We got a lot of important conversation to have with Black business. Let me acknowledge real quickly all the Black business from around the country who's on the call, from Illinois to New Jersey, Alabama to the sea, all around the globe. But today we're going to get started. We have our national president, Harry Alford, that's going to kind of tell us the purpose of this call, and we're going to move forward and see if we can get back on track. So this time, the president of the National Black Chamber of Commerce, Harry Alford. Is Harry on the call? If Harry's not on the call, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and keep moving. And I think we're still Harry?
He's attempting to talk. He's on.
Okay, go right ahead.
Let's go ahead, John.
Yeah, I could take it from here. Hi, this is John Harmon. I'm the founder and president of the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey, and we're extremely excited to have each and every one of you here today. This is very important. So let me just start off with our call to action. And in order to have a call to action and accountability, it all starts with an acknowledgement. Blacks have been devastated here, life, health, and severe economic loss. We heard today that the
both. We got both going.
the PPP program, all the
Okay,
resources, the $350 billion has been depleted. And I want to call your attention to section page 30 of HR 748, where it says the sense of the Senate, it is the sense of the Senate that
Speaker somewhere.
Hold on. I think that maybe Harry or Harry.
Say something.
If everyone would.
Can you hear Harry Alford?
Yeah, we can hear you, Harry.
Very good. Thanks for everybody joining in. Sorry for the difficulties, but we're here because we have been assaulted. We have been assaulted by a federal agency of the United States government to attack what is known as affirmative action. Affirmative action is the liberator of our rights to contracting, to hiring, and to a better world within this government. Art Fletcher was my mentor, is the father of affirmative action. Art developed affirmative action under the Richard Nixon administration in 1972. He introduced it through the Philadelphia Plan, and from there went on to the Chicago Plan, so forth and so on until it spread across the country. Affirmative action is to offset the ills of discrimination set off by Jim Crow and other ill entities. What happened 2 weeks ago was really struck a nerve to all of us, in that our government was saying that we were going to do away with affirmative action. No more was there going to be affirmative action, and no more was the opportunities for our children, ourselves, will be given its true opportunity. Art Fletcher taught me what affirmative action was. He was my mentor, and he taught Kay and I, and he would go around the country to Larry, to John's, all the other National Black Chamber of Commerce entities and teach it. And we became adding students of affirmative action. So it puzzles us why we have come so long and progressed so well that in the middle of a pandemic, they're going to decide to take the wheels from under us and destroy affirmative action. I cried foul. It hit a nerve, and Kay and I and Chuck and Larry got together and said, we have got to take this out into the streets and take it throughout our infrastructure. The National Black Chamber of Commerce is the largest black business association in the world, bar none. You can go to Colombia, you can go to Zambia, you can go to downtown Paris, and you will see members of the National Black Chamber of Commerce. They know who we are, they know what we stand for, and we've done 37 years of treading the streets to make it happen. I am a product of affirmative action. My great-grandparents were Louisiana slaves. My grandparents were Louisiana sharecroppers. My parents were a truck driver and a domestic from Louisiana and moved to California. It was there that affirmative action began to spread. And because of that, I became a pretty good football player for the University of Wisconsin Mighty Badgers. From there, I entered the U.S. Army and became an officer, finance and accounting. From there, I entered into the corporate world, in Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson. And it was through affirmative action that led these opportunities for me. And now you're going to come and tell me that my children and my grandchildren cannot have these opportunities? It's time for war. My brothers and sisters, it's time for the National Black Chamber of Commerce to stand up and to tell the world it's going to be affirmative action or nothing. We have gone over our time. Our speaker, Tim Scott, is now on board. And without further ado, Larry, I'm going to give it to you to introduce the group, the Honorable Senator Tim Scott.
Before you do that, Larry, we want to ask all the panelists to please mute out until your time to speak. There's a red button down there with a microphone on it. If it's red, you're muted. If it's not red, you're not muted.
Thank you, Chuck. It's my pleasure to introduce Senator Scott, a great senator, who's done some significant things, especially with Opportunity Zone. He is one of the co-authors of the Opportunity Zone. We have Senator Scott. We'd ask him if he would join us in the call for comments at this time. Senator Scott, if he's on the call right now. Is he keyed up? If we do not have, is Senator Scott on?
That's a fire.
He's showing present, but he's muted.
Okay. We can unmute Senator Scott. We can come back to him. Let us go ahead with Raynard Jackson, who's going to introduce our next panelist at this time. So, Raynard, if you can unmute yourself, you can introduce our next speaker, and we'll keep going down the line, and we'll get back to Senator Scott. And then we also obviously have Congressman Anthony Davis and others who are on the call. So at this time, we're going to have Raynard Jackson to introduce our next speaker at this time. Raynard Jackson. So, Raynard, can you speak at this point?
Raynard is muted.
He's muted?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll keep moving forward then. At this time, why don't we go ahead, Harry? We got my congressman and a great congressman. Congressman Denny Davis, I see him. He is on the call, and I can visually see him on the call here. So why don't we yield to Congressman Denny Davis from the great state of Illinois. Congressman Davis. Congressman, you're gonna have to, can you unmute yourself there? Make sure that button is not red.
What about now?
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, I agreed with everything my brother was saying. As a matter of fact, I wanted to jump up and shout hallelujah, because I also knew Art Fletcher and had a chance to interact with him. So I want to thank the National Black Chamber of Commerce for everything that you have done from the time that I've known of your existence. I do agree, you know, a lot of money has been loaned already. Illinois, I think about $8.5 billion. And I haven't heard any African Americans talk about how delighted they were to get a loan of what their businesses were. Then when I looked at the kind of businesses, I noted that, you know, the high-end guys and ladies were getting the money. I think this business of eliminating or making any attempt to eliminate a little bit of affirmed action that we've been able to experience is unconscionable, unbelievable, and it doesn't matter to me whether you are a Democrat, a Republican, a Dixiecrat, or any other kind of crat. We need to be united to make sure that those elements of our society, that those of us who have been left out, my folks sharecropped in Arkansas. And so I understand sharecropping in Louisiana. We may have come over in different ships, but I tell you, we're all in the same boat, and we've got to unify, fight this back, make sure that it does not happen, and that it does not become the policy of the land. Now, I can stop with that because I'm in total agreement.
Thank you, Congressman, for always taking the time to be supportive of the chamber and supportive of the Black community and the Black business community. We definitely appreciate the work that you've done and the work you continue to do as a leader in Congress. At this time, since we have a number of challenges we're trying to get through, we're going to, I know that we have a number of other speakers who are going to be coming on board, so we'll wait until they get queued up. When we see them and they're ready, then someone will text me and then we'll move forward. But let me say this, we have John Harmon, who was getting ready to start his comments. I'm going to ask John Harmon if he would kind of speak to some of the things that we got on the table, because this conversation about where we're at and what we need to do is a very important conversation. What we want to talk about right now is some of the things that we've looked at that we think can be done. And so we're going to have one of our leaders from New Jersey, John Harmon, to kind of walk us through a number of things that we have. And after John, we will have another speaker, maybe Dr. Sterling, when he's available. But we're going to start with John Harmon. John, all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to talk to our family. This is a family discussion. Family has been decimated, both from a health perspective, loss of life, and also an economic travesty. So what I want to speak to real quickly is, you know, before you can hold anyone accountable, there has to be acknowledgement. So I want to call your attention to HR 748, the Paycheck Protection Program, page 30, where it says, the sense of the Senate is to, the sense of the Senate that the administrator should issue guidance to lenders and agents to ensure that the processing and disbursement of covered loan prioritizes small business concerns and entities in underserved and rural markets, including veterans, members of the military community, small business owners, and small business, all businesses owned and controlled, by socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. As defined in the section 8D3C, women and businesses in operations for less than 2 years. In other words, the day we heard that all the money has been spent, the $350 billion, but the provision said that disadvantaged and minority and small businesses were supposed to have a priority. So our first ask is, if we are to disperse another $250 billion, ask that our congressional representatives those 4 stated priorities. Additionally, we're asking for funds to be appropriated to support Black media going forward. Funds to be appropriated to support Black chambers so that they can provide technical assistance to Black businesses who've been grossly harmed. We need Congress to advocate for a stronger partnership with our banking system, particularly as it relates to CRA, and make sure that we have a better relationship such that investments are given back to those communities where they're desperately needed. Additionally, federal procurement, make it more difficult for primes to get waivers on HUD projects and any other federal projects. We would also hope that you consider eliminating project labor agreements on federal projects, or at a minimum, implementing a threshold of $100 million. State and federal procurement, we should establish a quarterly national portal, for men with Blacks and minorities, supplemented with some form of monitoring and compliance system. Enforcement of Title VI and HUD Section 3 in accordance with the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Appropriate resources for the purchase of PPE for those residing in penal institutions and public housing. We would strongly encourage you to purchase those items through Black vendors. And lastly, find ways to get more Black elected officials as well to do more business with Black business. And those who are in business, we encourage you to join National Black Chamber affiliates across the country because we genuinely care about your interests. I'll yield back. Thank you.
If we can have someone, there's a little breathing on the phone, if we can have everyone mute their phone if they're not speaking, we would greatly appreciate that. Let me also take...
Larry?
Yes.
Yeah, with our grace and dignity, Congressman Davis, can you press that little red button down there on your screen over the microphone, please?
Yeah.
It didn't take.
All right. Let me get my technician to do it.
Okay, if you bring your cursor down there, while we're waiting, Larry, continue, please.
Thank you, Chuck. Again, John, thank you for John? Did everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Larry.
Okay. So let me just say this real quick so we can keep this forward.
Larry, if possible, we need to bring the phone, the panelists from the phone?
Dan says that
Jeff, you want to restate that?
Yes, we need to bring the panelists from the phone.
We worked long and hard to make sure that this thing would be flawless, but technology has a way of creating its own problems, but our apologies for that. Let me go back to another point in terms of keeping the agenda moving forward. We heard Congressman Danny Davis. We heard John Harmon talk about a couple of key areas. We heard our national president speak. And next on our agenda, we have Dr. Jeffrey Sterling. So we're going to ask Dr. Sterling if he would chime in. And I know Bernard Jackson is going to be introducing another speaker. And let me ask this question, Dr. Sterling. Let's see if Bernard Jackson is ready to introduce the speaker. And then after that, we can come forward. So see if Bernard can get on the call. Bernard, can you chime in at this point in time? I'm getting text from him, but I'm not seeing Bernard queued up at this point in time. So since we don't have Bernard, and keeping with getting through things, Bernard said he's here. I just got a text, he's here. Bernard, can you go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce the next speaker? Just hit the red button. Bernard would ask you to hit the red, but when the button is red, you're muted. Hit the red button and get it to turn gray, and then you'll be able to speak loud and clear. So you need to mute the button at the bottom of the screen here. Chuck, I don't see him unmuted at this point in time. I see Bernard is trying to communicate, but I don't hear anything from Bernard.
The phone is a different system, so we'll continue to get that going. I think we should.
And Chuck, why don't we go ahead with Dr. Jeffrey Sterling?
That's fine.
See if we can get Bernard keyed up for the next speaker, which I think is important to hear from. So we'll have Dr. Jeffrey Sterling. Let's see if we can work with Dwayne and our technicians to get Bernard keyed in. So at this time, Dr. Jeffrey Sterling. Dr. Sterling, can you unmute your? Can you unmute and address the group at this point? Or if you're having problems too in terms of getting. I see you're having problems with Dr. Sterling also. Let me go, Chuck. Why don't we, since we got you unmuted until we get this thing worked out, why don't you go ahead, Chuck, and have a couple of highlights. And I know we're moving things around, and it's not the agenda that we laid out, but we got to go with what we got at this point in time. And Chuck, why don't you just kind of touch base on a couple of the areas we have, and hopefully we can get the Senator Scott and get the other speaker that Bernard is going to be introducing here, Mr. one of the gentlemen from the White House on the call here. So why don't we go ahead, Chuck, and see if we can. I think Dr. Sterling says I'm unmuted. Can you say something, Dr. Sterling?
Let me comment on this. We need about 3 more minutes for Mr. Kudlow, and he's calling in, and we'll have it set up here just a couple more minutes. Sorry. Dr. Sterling.
Dr. Sterling. I can see Dr. Sterling, and he said he's unmuted, but somehow Dwayne, we haven't unmuted the phone, and somehow they're not getting connected here. But Mr. Harmon, why don't we do this? Because we're still struggling. John Harmon is still on the call.
I'm still here. Yes.
Okay, John. Why don't we, as we're trying to go back, take a little more time. We talked about 2 things. You and I can maybe carry some of this conversation. One of the things that we pointed out is that, from a chamber perspective, is that we have a number of things that are important to us. One, when it comes to the resources, perhaps in the next stimulus package, that we obviously know that last people to get information in about time, even though $350 million sounds like a lot, sounds like a lot of money, it's not a lot of money, as we already know. And so what we have requested as a part of our strategy to help improve Black businesses is that we need to spend some money with Black media. And so we're asking Congress to appropriate, based upon the devastation of Black business and Black people, that we appropriate some dollars for Black media, because Black media is a vehicle by which we can get information to our businesses. And a lot of time our businesses are not getting the information timely enough, and therefore about time they get it, they're out of the loop in terms of it. So we think that's important. We also think that there ought to be some dollars allocated to business organizations like the chambers, others, in order to do technical assistance, helping to fill out the paperwork and get it for the opportunity. John, is there any other piece that you would like to highlight in reference to the banking side?
Yes. So first of all, with all due respect, if you all would mute your lines, I think it would help the situation immensely. So one of the things that I mentioned, and I think this is probably one of the most significant things that I mentioned, was there was a provision in the bill as it relates to the Paycheck Protection Program. We would be first. We would be prioritized. Small businesses, women, veterans, etc. And somehow that was not honored, was not recognized. So we need more accountability in the process, first of all. But in terms of the capital access, it is significantly important that we have a better relationship with our banking systems. Many Black businesses lack access to capital in a timely manner, as well as access to information. And so we have laws on the books, CRA and Community Reinvestment Act, and banks would adhere to that more, and Congress would recognize that more. I think it would help us all. And more of the banks, if we work with Black businesses, Black chambers, there's some benefit to that as it relates to your Reinvestment Act grading. So as it relates to banking, I think it's important, Larry.
We still have their maybe
I'll continue. Without access to capital, there's no business. You can't grow your business without having access to resources. But the other point I was trying to make,
Davis, if we could ask it,
the other point that's okay. The other point I was trying to make, as it relates to the federal government, the government, the county government,
John, my
and
apologies.
municipal government.
There's still someone who's hasn't been the panelist. Someone's not muted their phone, and we're getting a lot of background noise. So if we could get panelists to, we could, and it may be okay. I think it's been muted, and that's good. So go ahead, John. Dr. Sterling, are you available to talk now, or Renard, in reference to the conversation? John, my apology for interrupting you, but I wanted to...
Larry, I'll make this last point, Larry.
Okay.
I yield back. I spent a lot of time talking about procurement. If you can't get business, you can't get a banking relationship, because you need business in order to be bankable. So when it comes to federal procurement, state procurement, county procurement, and municipal procurement, we plead with you to be more conscious of Black businesses. Through diversity, you're going to get a better product. And I emphasize, Black elected officials, please recognize Black businesses and do what you can to support them, because they're going to be creating jobs in your community. So everyone has to be accountable in order for Black businesses to get an equitable share of the public spend. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. This time we'll have Dr. Jeffrey Sterling, if he would join us at this point in time. Dr. Sterling? Dr. Sterling?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're on.
Oh, fantastic. Finally. Yes, very good. Hello, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Sterling. I'm a physician, an emergency physician specifically. I'm also a public health professional and a global healthcare entrepreneur. What I really want you to think about is, we've been talking about economic justice, but I want to drill down just a touch. The goal here really is to appreciate that this is yet another tragic story of healthcare disparities. As the data has started to roll in from across the country, we are seeing that approximately 70% in some areas, and as low only 40% of the deaths that are occurring across the country are occurring in the African American community. That's pretty tragic. And who is coming to save the day? Well, again, I own a medical supply company, and I'm here to tell you that there are no supplies going into the Black community. The goods are being delivered for the federal stockpile, to states, and to the frontline workers such as myself in hospitals. That really doesn't leave very much for things other than treatment. Treatment is good, folks, but prevention and health promotion are even better. So the effort to get the needed personal protective equipment in the hands of the citizens of the United States, particularly communities like ours that are disproportionately affected, is critical. And once again, who's coming to save us? Who's going to help us in that regard? Well, the answer to the question is Black business. As a public health premise, we have long known that culturally sensitive and culturally specific initiatives actually produce better healthcare outcomes in minority communities. And in this example, again, we have been ignored, we have been neglected, and until and unless specific initiatives are put forth, not just in the name of affirmative action, although by all means that is critical, economic justice is critical, but it is an intelligent decision by this country to target the areas in which the disease is spreading. And to that end, we are the ones that have the proclivity to make that happen. So one of the clear asks is to target our communities, but not even just that, but to target our communities through the activities of Black business. We're the ones that are able to get into the communities. We're the ones with the financial, economic, and cultural incentive to do so. So as part of our ask, as part of our eradicating this disease and the devastation that is occurring in our communities, we simultaneously have to focus on the fact that our best opportunity as small business owners to survive is to make sure our communities survive as well.
Yeah, at this time, again, we'd like to kind of, I think Dr. Sterling was right in the heat of his conversation, which ties into the conversation we were just having. So if we can let Dr. Sterling continue his comments, and then we'll kind of move on to the next thing. And we'll give, if Congressman Danny Davis wants to have another opportunity to share, we'll give him another opportunity, because we still don't have a couple of the others who've been able to dial in and been having some technical difficulties. So at this time, if we can have Dr. Jeffrey Sterling to kind of finish his comments.
Well, thank you. Just very quickly, the point of the matter is that there are healthcare disparities, and our family members are out there on the street suffering. It really is incumbent upon us to deliver the solutions to them. Black business has a role not just to create economic justice, but to use that economic opportunity to facilitate eradication of healthcare disparities in our communities. This is not necessarily a political group. The virtues of whether or not we believe in the policies that are being furthered perhaps are beyond the scope of our conversations here. All I know is that we need to advocate for our piece of the pie, and we, in turn, can use that piece to create the solutions that we want. I am very emotional. I'm here on the front line, as well as every which way but loose in terms of trying to address this solution. And I am especially committed toward delivering these solutions back into our community. One thing I want you to know that many on the call have contacted me about prior to this call and on this call is that my medical supply company actually has facilitated a co-op where we're now working with about 60 different medical supply companies under the banner of SI Medical Supply, and we've used that to expand capacity so that we can approach various states, the federal government, large corporations, etc. We believe that is a very important part of this conversation, not just to pursue loans to prop us up, but to put us in a position to succeed when these opportunities do come downstream. It is essential that we actually have the capacity to participate in the billions of dollars that are being spent as part of the solution for eradicating this. So if you're interested in participating in that regard, please get involved. There are going to be some calls to action at the end of this, but just kind of keep in mind at the end of it, it is economic justice, but it is also the eradication of healthcare disparities inside of our communities. Thank you so much to the Black Chamber, and I'm all on board and appreciate the opportunity to be on this call and to be with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sterling. As we stated, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot going on, and we also, like I said, we still would like to have Congressman Danny Davis, who's any comments that he would have at this point in time. Congressman Davis?
Yes, thank you very much. I heard the White House representative, and I believe that he intends what he said, but I still think the level of advocacy has to continue and escalate itself and make sure that we know that no matter what the intent, the results that we're looking for have not been seen. And I think we have to continue until the results change. I appreciate having the opportunity to be a part of this discussion. I appreciate the effort and the work that you're doing. Harry, it's always good to know that you're still seriously on the case. Larry, we're very proud of the fact that you are an Illinois guy. So I look forward to continuing to work with all of you as we try and make real the intent that we just heard this afternoon. So thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Congressman Danny Davis. We have a comment that we use often in our chamber. We say, "In God we trust, but everyone else bring the data." And the data points to the fact that on the healthcare disparities, we're getting clobbered. what I'm concerned with on the economic data, it's even worse. When I take a look at different states, and we're asking our chambers throughout the country, as you begin to take a look at your states and take a look at their procurement, track their procurement, and I think what we're going to find, like we found in the state of Illinois, is that there's a lot of procurement happening at this particular point in time. When you ask about how many African Americans are participating, I think we would be alarmed to find out very little, if any. And so it's incumbent upon us as a community, as business leaders, and as legislators to challenge everyone to make sure that there is an equal opportunity for us to participate. And as people have said before, when it's time to pay taxes, we don't have a discount in paying taxes. Therefore, we ought not to have a discount in participating where our dollars have created the opportunity. And so we have to be vigilant, and we just about have to be dogmatic and unapologetic for fighting for the things that we deserve, because we contribute to the local economies in all kinds of ways. And so it's so important for us, and for us to be engaged and for us to speak out. I know we got a lot of questions. I got a lot of texts from a lot of people, and just let you know that your questions will not fall on deaf ears. We're listening carefully to Black businesses across the country to find out what's working, what's not working, where they're having complications, and we plan to make sure that we continue to be an effective advocate and address these issues at a state and national level to make sure that Black businesses have a seat at the table and not on the menu. And thus far, we've been on the menu, and we haven't had a significant seat on the table. And we have to work with everyone, whether you're Republican or Democrat. We have to work with everyone in order to bring about a real change that benefits the people that we care about and the people that we serve across the board. At this time, I'm going to ask that, Chuck has a couple of things that he would like to share, and then we're going to ask, we are really kind of on time. We have about 15 minutes left in terms of our time, in spite of all the technical difficulties. And again, my sincerest apologies for the mishaps that were made. We worked extremely hard to make sure that things went well, but in spite of that, things did not go as well as we hoped. But our intent is to serve Black business and to make sure that Black business as well. The National has been an advocate, even in Katrina and other places where it stood up and spoke out. And so I was proud to serve as national chairman because of the work that Harry and Kay has done in fighting for Black businesses for a long period of time. So at this time, we're going to have Chuck. Chuck would chime in on a couple of things that he would like to convey, and then we're going to ask that Harry or Kay close the meeting out, and then we'll look forward to additional conversation. Thank all our speakers, and I apologize to some of the speakers who are still on the call, but somehow get connected to the conversation. Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott, was not able to get on the call, so our apologies. We would love to hear from him, but that was impossible. So at this time, the head of Central Project and our international key person is Chuck DeVoe. So Chuck.
Good afternoon, and thank you, everyone. I'm Charles DeVoe. I'm the Vice President of Programs and Development for the National Black Chamber of Commerce. And we, as you've heard, we're faced with some of the most challenging time we've had in mankind. This is the biggest transfer of wealth that has happened in the history of man. We got three quick things for call to action that we want to talk about and engage everyone. This is just the first of a number of engagements that we're going to have, and you can hear that we have a lot of work to do, but there is a willingness and a cooperativeness for us to be able to do it. The first thing we want to ask you to do is to please send back, respond to your census survey. We get Congressman Davis back to his computer. We'll get him to mute. And the second thing is, it's really important that you contact your elected official and express your displeasure or something even stronger, that we are not accepting the national interest exemptions memo. This is something that a lot of people don't know about. We weren't even sure to what degree who knew about it within the administration. And for those of you online, I'm going to ask them to post this letter. It's a memo that was written that says that it waives any responsibility by government contractors, by the banks, by anybody involved with these funds of having to adhere to affirmative action. And the types of things you heard Larry mention with the banks, there's a number of you who are on this call today that have had personal experiences and can convey them to us about how you were treated when in your efforts to seek the stimulus funds on any number of different levels, from the paycheck protection to the SBA loans to any of the number of things. So the letter is on the screen now, but you can go to Department of Labor, DOL.gov, and just put in National Exemptions Memo and read it and just see. I mean, I won't take the time to read it now, but the language is almost like read between the lines. You don't have to deal with anybody you don't want to and have at it. Well, billions of dollars just flew away, poof, into the air within 24 hours. We have one case where there was a major bank that sent out emails to their prime customers, clients, on a Saturday afternoon. By Sunday evening, $2 billion had been given out. And on Monday morning, when they opened for regular business, when the funds were supposed to be initially made available, they were totally out of money. And of course, black businesses were the ones that were trying to play by the rules or weren't invited to the kitchen meeting, and we were left out. So we want you to contact your elected officials, let them know of our outrage of the pushing aside of affirmative action, which has been in place since the 60s under the Nixon administration, that they were going to do this. The last thing we want to do is I want everybody to just take note of our email. It's info@nationalbcc.org. I'll repeat it again, info@nationalbcc.org. Send us an email just to say the area of interest that your company has, the type of work you do. If you want to send a company profile, that's more than welcome and appreciated. But we do have contracting opportunities. There are some people that are having success. And with our previous experiences, we know this thing is going to turn around and there's going to be opportunities, and we're not going to accept that they cannot find people to fill these opportunities, these contracts as they come about. So one of the next next actions that we'll be doing is focusing on various sectors and promoting and advocating activities within those, as well as creating business among ourselves. There's a number of companies that are sitting here right now with heavy inventories on PPE, on surgical masks, on gloves. Dr. Sterling was just speaking about it. There's product. You hear all these other hospitals and other entities talking about they can't find them or they're going to China to get them and all these different things. Well, we have some within our network, within our federation of businesses, and we salute you, but we're not going to leave you hanging. We're not going to leave you hanging out there. So send us an email and we'll include you. There's government contracting. There's a healthcare initiative going on that's huge. There's going to be a lot of money that's going to be putting towards things like sterilizing your work environment, things like that may be industrial cleaning or maintenance, building maintenance, those types of things. Don't think that you're left out. There's going to be plenty of opportunities. Lastly, we have large international initiatives going. We've been contacted from a number of other countries that have similar problems, and they want to know solutions for their challenges as well. And they're very interested to partner and work with our constituency. And we have a number of other things going. We thank you for your patience and understanding. This is just the first step. Larry, I do want to add that we did hear back from Senator Scott, and he would very happily and willingly join us again for another call. And there's a number of reasons why he's very vital to our interests, and he's a strong advocate for us. And I just want to thank everybody for their patience and understanding as we got through this today. And there'll be much more activity to follow. Thank you very much.